Sigman Sense. I don't know.
30?
If this one airs next, it'll be 23.
26 is half the year.
Such a weirdo. Yes, you're correct.
I know I'm correct. I'm a math person. 26 times 2 is 52.
Just a really weird reference.
That's
26 is half the year.
Is she making fun of me? I feel like I'm being made fun of.
Yes. Yes.
You're not even trying to hide it.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell us about your elephants.
Ask me for help. See what happens. I'm not going to save you. You're gonna
help me get through this podcast and tell me about your elephants.
I'm going to avoid some of your questions and just let you flop. It's going to be okay.
Aww.
I'm Josh Sigman, and I'm a mortgage lender. I'm also a geek for money, not just earning it and saving it, but literally everything about it. I love that money has rules. It has its truths. I love investment strategies, and I love making money work for us. For so many, money is emotional. For me, it's logical, like a puzzle. My passion is also helping others with their money. I love looking at people's finances, dissecting their puzzle, and rebuilding with strategy and purpose, and I'm really good at it. I'm making this podcast about my money strategies, not the things that are written in books or sold in programs. It's a podcast outlining the lessons I've learned and used for the past 15 years. These strategies help me and those who use them save more, give more, create wealth, and retire early. Let me teach you how to build your net worth. You ready? Welcome to Sigman Sense. All right, here we go. Welcome back to another episode of Sigman Sense. We are almost halfway through the year. We are 5 months into COVID, it seems like. It just kind of goes on and on and on. And so it's interesting. We got several questions that came in over the last couple of weeks that we'll probably reference in. But really what a lot of these references and these questions come back to is they have a question about a decision that needs to be made, right? And, you know, the analysis of paralysis is one big issue that we see all the time, not knowing what to do.
And it's getting worse.
And it's getting worse because people are avoiding and putting their head in the sand. Or
not that, there's just a lot of X factors that you don't know. And so it makes it's not hard for me to make decisions. And I'm feeling hard to make decisions. And I make decisions very easily. So
okay. I can go with that. You know, I think that at the end of the day, there's probably two. Then I'll go with that. I think that there's probably paralysis, and it feels like it's happening slower. I think the other end of it is that people are waiting for the world to change rather than them change, right? Like I'll give you an example. I've got a couple of very close friends. You know, in this environment, in any employment situation, right? For whatever reason, there are companies that are very clearly doing well, very clear winners. Yeah. The industries that are doing exceptional, IT kind of stuff, cloud space kind of stuff, real estate and lending is doing crazy with low rates. And then you've got on the other side, you've got Carnival cruise ships not doing very well, and tourism and bars and restaurants, movie theaters. You know,
so sad.
Actually, the last rainy day, that was the thing. I was so sad. Chris is like, it's raining. What should we do? I was like, go to the movies. And then my battery shut off. I was like, no. It was bad.
I know. My mom loves the movies, and she's like, do you think they're open? I'm like, I can't think of like a worse breeding ground for let's all.
And I think they are open. I think they're open at like 25% capacity or something. Yeah.
Oh.
But they've got drive-in movie theaters now.
No, that's
fun. Pretty cool.
That is fun.
But here's the thing. So, you know, people that are working at half income or had a furlough and don't have an income, what I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm having these conversations with some of my some good friends and some good clients, is they're still waiting for the company to call them back. They're still waiting for the situation to change. They're waiting for the government to turn back on the lights, right?
Yeah.
But what didn't happen is they didn't make hard decisions and changes early, because they're sitting around waiting. And what I personally think about is I don't want to worry about what I can't affect, but I can always affect what I can personally change, right? So let me say that a different way. Christy and I, just like most husbands and wives, we have our moments. We'll call them moments, right?
Yeah.
And this probably irritates her a little bit, but I'm a very logical person. And so when it comes to a confrontation, a miscommunication, a disagreement. There's a V in the road. Okay. So to me, it's as simple as, are we going to break up or are we going to make up?
Okay.
It's that simple. Like if this is such a big deal that we're going to break up, let's get on with it. If we're not going to break up, then let's make up and let's get on with it. Right. And I see you as a woman just like shuddering here.
Oh my God.
But mentally, this is actually, it's actually a really, it's helped
There
me.
are so many more steps than that.
You simplify it. And this is, I'm trying to make a point. Keep laughing at me. It's okay. I'm not bothered by it, because what we end up doing, and what a lot of couples end up doing, is they flounder in this. I just want to be stuck here at this little,
I want to be pissed.
at this next, I just want to be pissed for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to make you
waste
suffer.
2 weeks. It wastes 2 weeks. So if we're not going to break up, let's get on with making up. So what does that look like? Well, I can say, I'm sorry. I can start doing some extra dishes, acts of service, love, whatever you want me to do to start working on making up. But that is an example of what I'm seeing with this whole COVID employment, COVID income, COVID is they're at this nexus and they're not doing crap that they can affect, right?
Yeah.
When you think about something like a SWOT analysis, and so for this will help some business owners, you've got your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. And I'll say that slower: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And every
SWOT
6 months,
analysis.
and every 6 months, I always go through that myself with students, with team, or whatever. And the strengths is really easy. Just look at what do we do well, so we don't stop doing that. Weaknesses, and this is a key. Weaknesses are things that are internal. These are things that we don't do well, that we can improve at, that we haven't figured out yet. Then you've got the threats. The threats are things that are typically external.
External things
right?
that are
and the external
that are
things,
issues.
as a reminder from a previous episode, there are certain things that you can't do anything about it.
Right.
So let's stop giving energy to it. But there are certain
You got to know
threats.
that they're there.
You got to be aware of it so you can position, defend, whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't do anything about it. Government changes, right?
Right.
If the government says that you can't, let's just use the CARES Act. Okay. If the government says that you can't take somebody's car back during the next 12 months and you own a repossession company.
Yeah.
Then that is not good. That's something you can't change.
Cannot
right?
control, yeah.
And I know a wonderful human that this is an exact scenario.
Right.
But he didn't cry about it. Dude went into a different job like in a week.
Yeah. Which is great. That's a great thing to do.
It's super impressive to me. Like
Very
it's super
impressive.
impressive.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing I can do about this. It sucks. Let's move. Right.
Got to move forward. Yeah.
And so, so this is something I'm hoping to help some people with, because let me give the news break. It's not going to get better anytime soon. Right.
Soon.
Like take a look around. Unfortunately, all we hear in the news, if you choose to watch the news anymore, which I try to avoid at all costs.
I do not.
Right. Try to avoid it.
I have enough shit going on in here. I do not need any external.
Right. It's crazy. It's what right now, if you're listening, you're probably one of four things. It's either second resurgence of COVID and everyone's going to get it at some point. Right. Second one is protesting is not a bad thing. In fact, I think that's a smart thing, but the 1% that are burning down cities, that's not a great thing.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
China and the United States are kind of in a pissing contest over Hong Kong right now. And then on top of this, Russia may have paid to kill some of our GIs. These are very bad things. It's bad for the environment. This is bad for the economy. On top of that, you look at GDP. On top of that, you look at here's a news flash. So I was watching the news, and in a week period of time, there were over 850 companies in San Antonio that went bankrupt.
Jesus.
Right? Like crazy filings into the second quarter, and they realize that we're screwed. Their financials come in, and so they file for bankruptcy. And so this is going to keep trickling down. You think and that's one city. That's not a lot of cities. That's one city. It happens to be one of the biggest ones. So this isn't every small town in the world. But you magnify that and say, okay, well, just use that little microcosm and just spread that over a quarter. Say it's 800 over a quarter. It's still 800 companies times how many employees? Yeah. Say the average company has 10 employees. It's 8,000 people that are going to have renegotiations of their employment, renegotiations of their salaries, or will not have a job.
Right.
So this all boils down to
it does, because
we need to make decisions.
And a lot of people that cripples and pauses any sort of decision making. And
what percentage of the population likes change?
I mean, like zero.
Actually, I disagree. I like change.
I
love
actually
change.
do enjoy change. I really do. I really do.
That was my layup for you. So Bryn is actually really, really well knowledge at the DISC testing, at profiling people. And DISC is a common way to kind of assess people. And there's only 10% of the world are like A personality, D people. They like change.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
You're high D, I'm high D. Most of the people are S personalities.
S's, 60% are S's.
Yeah, that's steady.
Which is
like change.
It is crippling, paralyzing, and so scary to think of this change happening all the time. And so you think that, okay, I am really okay with change. I actually kind of like a mix up every once in a while. Like, I like that we had to like kind of change and go home and let's work from here and let's get used to that and change things up a little bit. I thrive in that. And if I'm feeling like, ooh, there's just a little bit of, it really boils down for me, it boils down to the kids in school because back to school is like my jam, like everything's organized again. We're getting out of this like fluctuating, sleep late, do kind of what we want. We're getting back into like routine land.
That's true for you.
It is. And I love it. And I love getting their school supplies and I love getting their new clothes and like, it's a fresh start. And I'm like, where is that gonna happen? I mean, so that's where my like.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I actually like change. I love change as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because, one of my mean pranks I've done at our team over the years, you know exactly what I'm about to say.
I don't know if this was a prank. I think this was a really bad decision of ours.
But then we did it again, right? But the second and third time was just to mess with people, but. Literally, I had employees that are S and C personalities,
like all of them,
and most of them, and we would move their desks. Like you guys switch spots, and you move across the hallway.
Like we kept like skipping it. We're like, guess what?
And people's
we have
lives,
an all new seating arrangement.
And people would literally lose their minds, and I just sit there and watch them. It's like, so we have to do this again to get
people
used to change.
Why do you think they're so mad?
Right, and then. And then you go back to, the beginning of COVID. So our company is a face-to-face organization. We love meeting agents. We love meeting clients face-to-face. And, March 15th, go home. So I remember very distinctly that, our employees for the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it was like the world had come unglued, like for many people, right? Trying to learn the balances, try to learn the, how to have kids at home and all this stuff. But now we were just talking about before this that none of my employees want to come back to work. They figured out a great way to organize themselves. They're more efficient, more effective working from home. So again, I think that things like this that create agents of change is a really good thing. So not easy to do, but just remember that nothing good comes easy.
Right.
Ever. Right. So I want to kind of walk through. You can Google a dozen different examples. Dartmouth has a great study. But there's lots of information out there about decision-making processes. Okay. So this is not original thought. This is, I was talking with my sales team at the company and this was one of the things I was trying to teach them because they have to make decisions about how to move forward with their own individual businesses. Right.
Yeah.
But this relates in everything. This relates in how you handle money. Should I buy a car? Should I put it in a pool? Should I not? Should I look for a job today, or should I hope and pray that this company's going to bring me back? Should I sell my house because I don't want to, be in a situation where I'm forced to sell at a discount? Right now, I can choose to sell at a premium. Things like that, which are all hard decisions, but they're better done because, again, I want you to come to the apex. We're either going to break up or make up. So let's get on with it. Either way. Okay. The more I say that, the more you're going to like that statement, by the way. So
can't wait for my next fight with Randy.
I can't wait for my next fight with you. It'll be very short. I'll be like, hey, you're quitting or are we going to figure this out?
I don't know. Let me get my little notes out and see here.
So let's start with the first one. The first step is really identifying this decision. A couple of different, like I said, a couple of different articles will have you a variation of the first step. But I really think the first step is identifying if there's a decision that warrants time to make, right?
Okay.
Here's why I think this is really important. There is piddly shit out there that will not move the needle.
100%.
Right? And people waste a lot of time making this dumb decision or that this is the paralysis of it, like just getting frozen
or
up.
worried about things that they literally can't control whatsoever.
Right. And this is the piece where I believe it goes back to prioritizing, right? So yeah, prioritization in and of itself is a skill that we've taught before.
Yeah.
But if you look at the equation, whatever that is, whether you're working on, should I go to public school or private school? Should I get a home warranty or not? Should we stay home and stay away from everybody? Or is it safe to go out and like order out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like all those different decisions, there's certain ones that are bigger than others. And so prioritizing which ones, I always think if it's going to save me the most money or save me the most time, make me the most money, save me the most time. That's how I kind of, as a business owner, look at it.
Business owner for sure.
But past that, it's going to go down to, is this a decision that has a massive impact or not? The real question is, will it move the needle? Yes or no? Like what's the ins and outs of this? Does it move the needle?
Okay.
Because not all decisions do, right? Like
at all.
Yeah. And certainly with spouses, there's certain decisions that aren't even on the radar for one spouse.
And the reality is, if you are one that is good at this, chances are your spouse is not, because of the opposites
that's
attracts.
So true.
It's just true. So there's always one person that's better equipped to make decisions, but we can't railroad the poor spouse that's worrying about the things. So, just makes for a
I have an opinion about that. I believe that if you're better at making decisions, invite somebody to participate, give them a time frame. If they don't participate, then make the decision and move on with your life. Right? Okay. I think that makes you happier. You're like, okay, that works.
Yeah. You keep on going with that. Okay. Just keep on railroading.
I'm only
Josh.
41. So far it's worked for me. Right. So when it goes to identifying the decision, again, let's make sure if we're going to spend any time on anything, it's actually worthwhile.
Yes.
It goes back to, is it going to move the needle or not? Is it a big decision that's going to impact us or not? If it's a small thing, does it really make sense? But then we've got to actually gather information, right? So give me an example of a decision that we can process for everybody to listen to. What would be something that would be fun to talk about? Maybe something from one of our viewers.
Okay. So I know exactly one. So, as you all know, if you've been listening, we now have an email address that people can email questions into.
What's the email address?
sigmansense@gmail.com. And so we did get a couple of questions, and I love this one because it's perfect. So question is, my spouse, who is a salaried earner, is now, she got a promotion, and we're going to be receiving, or she's going to be receiving, a pretty substantial lump sum of money as a bonus every year. Okay. So how?
Give me a range of this bonus-ish, just so we have something to play with.
I don't know for
10,000.
sure. Okay. Yeah, sure.
I'm thinking like USA is 10% of their salary. So $100,000 earner would be 10,000, $50,000 earner would be 5,000. 5 to 10. We'll use 5 to 10. Sorry.
10,000
it is. Fun of me? Mental calculations.
Not
That's okay.
At all.
Okay. So we'll use that. I think that's a great one. So is this a decision? Let's start with step one.
So the question was, how do we utilize this based on what we have purchased, what debts we have, and what we want?
Love it. Okay, so that's perfect. So is this a worthwhile decision to spend time on?
Yes.
100%, right? Why? Because it does move the needle. It can.
It does, yeah.
And I think that, so let's kind of weigh this, which goes into step 2, which is gathering some information. I think that the easiest thing here is just use the timely, effective who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who, what, when, where, why, how.
Who, what, when,
so
where, why, how.
Whether it's in business, whether it's in personal, whether it's with money, whether it's with fitness, there are certain aspects you want to make sure you really look at really quickly, but it's as simple as making sure you don't skip steps. Where I get in trouble a lot, when I make decisions, I skip about 3 steps and I don't involve people. True story?
Yeah.
I skip about 3 steps.
Incredibly factual.
And I don't. And every time that I look back, I'm like, that was a great decision. People are looking at me like I'm from the Twilight Zone.
And then we're like backtracking, going,
let's go ahead.
Let's backtrack and do some explaining.
Right. So here we are. Step 1: is it worth making a decision on? Yes. Because why? Well, if a bonus might equate for 5 or 10% of your income, there's 3 things that I believe should be looked at very closely. And the first one would be going back to budgeting. Do I have enough reserves?
Okay.
Because if not, I should reset up my reserves.
Okay.
Right. The second one would be, do I have debt that's expensive, high credit cards, things like that? So second one would be, is there an opportunity to reduce debt? Right. The third one would be, have I saved enough this year? So is this an opportunity to put it into some sort of retirement vehicle? Right. So as a quick thing, Do all those have different outcomes? Yes. Will some of those have a more important benefit long-term? Yes. Will some of them have a more important benefit short-term? Yes. And so this is why it's a worthy concept or question to work through your decision-making process. I think that's
I love it.
one, okay?
I love it.
So step 2 would be gather, right? The gathering the information. So just give me for instance, let's just do the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So it doesn't matter. The who is obviously the employer. The what we know is a bonus.
It's a bonus.
The why is it there might be a mechanism, right? So it has to probably hit key performance indicators. So what's the chances of
like how? Okay, so what's the likelihood of it actually happening?
Right,
like, should we guarantee on it?
Yeah,
like,
is it a guaranteed bonus or is this a?
Yes, it is.
Right, okay, it's a guaranteed bonus.
Yes.
When is a big one?
December.
Okay, so that matters because
I'm
some
making
people pay
all of
taxes.
this up.
That's perfect though, but this matters. December or January timeframe, taxes are due if you have properties, things like that. Christmas is a big one. Vacation's a big one, so we could use the opportunities there. Who, what, when, where doesn't matter.
I think where doesn't that kind of go into like, does it go to reserves? Does it go to debt?
Yep.
Is that the where?
Yep. And then why and how. How is easy. Company pays it, right? So this is not a complicated one, but it's a great example. So the point is let's make sure we don't miss anything in the basics first. If you think...
I want to say, I think it's important to figure out what that number is going to be after taxes.
Yeah. In this case, if it's going to be, and this goes back to another step, but in the case of getting money, yes, I would totally agree because money given versus money actually being able to be used are two different things.
Two different things.
I love that. That's a great point. So let's stop here and give a different example because the who and what and where can be different if you're a small business owner that's listening in, right? This might be who might be the key employees that I should bring into this decision. This could be what allies, like if I have a CFP or a CPO, a COO, or if I have a CPA that I use, which a lot of people use, or a bookkeeper that I use. You know, if it's a financial decision, I should bring them in.
Get your team in.
Yeah, get the team involved, right? And I'll do a little asterisk this side. My professional business coach, he's got the number one. I've been coached by this guy for probably 12 years now. His number one rule, what he believes is the biggest distinguisher for advancement and growth and big leaps and bounds as far as business opportunity is the ability to delegate at a high level. Learning to delegate at a high level was his biggest one, which goes right into this. So, you know,
and my guess is that is one of the hardest things because, especially as a business owner, when you've got a million things going on every day and you've coined yourself as making pretty damn good decisions the majority of the time. And why do I want to slow down?
I can do it myself.
I can do it myself and I can be done with this literally for the rest of the year right now. And so slowing down.
That's why I get stuck. I get myself in trouble a lot, honestly, is I think I'm doing what's best for everybody, but and it might be the right decision, but I didn't go through the process, so I piss people off in the process, right?
And then people are finding out about it
afterwards.
I
have to resell it. I have to go back through it, right? That's a nice way to say it. That's the truth. So I love that you said that because it's pointing out some of my failures and flaws because it's an excellent point, right?
And mine too, by the way, like not from a business owner standpoint, but from the decisions that need to be made. I'm in charge of the marketing department. And a lot of times the things that we do require more people, other team members and other departments. And to me, it is so clear and it is so simple and it makes such sense that the thought of having to explain it just seems really odd and like, why?
And so I'll take this, to a home front scenario, right? We're not going to even argue about this one. But I know this happens with a lot of households. Some households are fortunate enough to have a maid of some sort to help out, right? To be able to stick their head in and help out.
You said a maid?
A maid.
Like someone to help clean the house?
Yeah, exactly right. It's amazing to me how many people in that household clean up before the maid gets there. Like clean the house before the maid gets there to clean the house, right? It's bizarre to me. Pay a little bit more and let it be done. Don't just, but that's what we do as business owners sometimes is we get involved because I can do it quickly, but we never teach the way we want it to be done in the first place. And that slows everything down. So bringing people in, this is why it's worth going through this in detail, to bring people in and teach them how you make decisions so that they can make decisions That's
I love that.
that's what my sales coach was teaching me over the last decade is if you don't slow down to teach people how you make decisions, you'll always be stuck making decisions
which
for them.
is so hard to do because you have to slow down.
Yep.
Which sucks.
Yep. Especially if you're a fast-paced person.
Yeah.
So step 3, right? So gather. So you've identified the decision. You've gathered the information. One thing that we miss quite often is what are the alternatives? Okay.
Yeah.
So just because the first thing that comes to mind seems like a really great idea doesn't mean that's what you should do, right? So in business, maybe using a CRM system, right?
Yeah.
There's 50 of them, but you referred to one of them. So you get down that path and maybe it's the best, maybe it's not the best, right? If you go down the path of what to do with my money, right? Like in a vacuum, if I am a low debt, no debt kind of mentality, and I get given the opportunity to get $5,000 from a bonus. Man, we should just go ahead and flop that down towards debt, right? Which is not a bad decision.
Not a bad decision, but it's not leveraging it the way it could be.
Right. It's not making you money for retirement. Yeah. Number one, going back to the 3 options we talked about, that's a perfect example of what are the alternatives? Well, we could put in reserves because we have none. We could pay off debt because we have some. We could put it into retirement because we need to retire one day, right?
And or start your float account. So that way,
that's the cash part.
That's so that way when you're paying off your debt,
you have something to come back
to. You have something to come back to. And the next time you need it, you're not just charging debt again.
And that's the whole point of identifying the alternatives that people miss out on.
Yeah.
Because you're about to embark potentially on spending a whole lot of time, energy, and money, and it could be the wrong decision, in a vacuum. So if you're a viewer that's listening that you are by yourself, single person, you're just getting started, it's much easier and faster to make processes because it affects fewer people. So there's fewer consequences. Keyword, fewer consequences, and you can change faster if you go down the wrong path.
Yeah.
And the bigger the family size, if you're married, or God forbid you have a business and now you've got 500 people behind you that are going to beat to the drum no matter which direction you're going.
No matter which direction.
So the CEO says, we're going that way. And it's off pace. It's 10 degrees off. The whole, if you've ever watched one of my favorite analogies I was ever given about like why you've got to slow down to speed up, right? The reason why we have to slow down to speed up when it comes to a bigger decision is if you've ever watched the movie Apollo 13, right?
Yeah.
They're talking about how they have to do, so if you've not seen this, Apollo 13 is an attempt for astronauts to do a pass around the moon, or actually it was a land on the moon mission. And if something went wrong, there was an explosion in space. So you had the best and brightest minds on Earth. They're trying to tell you how to put your freaking spaceship back together to get back and land on Earth without dying, running out of oxygen on time, not freezing to death, not missing the mark, right?
Just some really big decisions.
Like some really big decisions. And what's really interesting about it is they boil it down to if they first had to do this weird rubber band around the moon. If you watch the movie, it's a great movie with Tom Hanks. And they're coming back. Kevin Bacon's in there too. Everyone's in a movie with Kevin Bacon. And
I'm just thinking of the
different movie. You're thinking of, I know it.
No,
you're thinking of like some sort of.
And I don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, you were thinking, exactly. I knew you were thinking about that. You're thinking of Ben Affleck's movie, which is not what we're talking about.
Not what we're talking about. Okay.
No, you're thinking of Armageddon.
Yes.
Good movie. Why did I know that?
I have no idea.
Okay. We hang out too much.
Maybe it's because
so this is
voice
Apollo
is
13 and they've rubber band around the moon and now they're coming back. And the whole key was they had to do this. They had to do a burn on the engine, meaning they had to light that candle and come out and they had to hold it for an exact number of seconds. And if they were off by 0.01%, like not 1%, like 0.01%, then there was enough gas left to make that one burn, so they couldn't correct it afterwards. If they did too little, they're gonna skip off the Earth's atmosphere and go into space forever and die. If it's too few, it's gonna go too steep into the Earth's atmosphere and they would burn up.
Not a lot of great options.
If you're off by 10% in your trajectory because your decision wasn't one that was sound,
right.
you didn't take the time to slow down and say, hey, let's not do a 9-second burn. Let's get this burn right the first time.
Let's just see.
It matters more if you're leading 2 people or 10 people or 25 people because the magnification effect really starts to build up because you're going the wrong direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
Just making
sure does.
So this is why we want to gather alternatives, because we want to make sure that if we're going to embark on a path and spend any time and energy at all on it, let's make sure it's the right decision.
Yes.
Okay. Next step, weigh the evidence, right?
Okay.
So what would be the benefit? Let's go back to our example.
Okay.
So we already came up with the 3 alternatives. So we could put it into reserves. We could pay down some debt. We could put it into retirement. Okay. So weigh the evidence. So what would I mean by that quickly, and what that mean? Like, what would you think?
So basically probably what the biggest bang for the buck is and how long it
Sure.
could get.
Well, what's the interest rate of the credit card debt? Let's start there.
Okay. 13%.
Okay. What can I expect to receive on my retirement if I put it into retirement?
I have no idea.
6%, 7% long term, right? Do I have a comfortable padding in my reserve account or not right now? Okay, cool. What's the likelihood of me paying down debt and then charging right back up based on historical performance?
Very high.
Very high. Okay. Why did I do that? Because I didn't have reserves.
Because I have no control.
Because I didn't have reserves, right? Because you have no reserves. You're so funny.
I have no control.
Because you need to cut the damn credit card, right? But this is a great example. So raise your hand in the audience if you're that person that you have the best intentions. You pay down your debt, and then the shit hits the fan.
And
there is no cash reserves to dip into, or not enough. So you go right back to the credit card.
Or you don't want to use it.
And you're in this perpetual cycle.
Like,
or you don't want to use your cash.
It's so weird. Like this is what it's for. And I'm like, I don't want to use it. So I'm going to go do this.
Right.
That's so dumb.
Bad choices. Bad choices.
That's why you need a sounding board.
That's why we have a yin and yang on this show. We got to, there's reality and there's departed from reality. There's 2 different
and there's
things.
Me. Just kidding. I don't have a credit card. My name is Bryn and I do not have a credit card because I make dumb ass decisions like that.
Hi, I'm Bryn. I'm an alcoholic.
That too. That's coffee.
So the weighing the evidence goes to just thinking through that. Just a couple of key things. Like if I've screwed up my credit card use in the past, let's not keep doing the same crap.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. Why? So if you do a more complicated decision, let's think about, should we sell a house? Should we buy a house? Right? Like going back to that COVID conversation.
Yeah.
The weighing the evidence is I've got enough reserves to make it for another 90 days. I talked to a realtor. It turns out that I can sell my house in about 45 days. If I sold it now based on summertime sales prices, I could probably get a premium for it.
Okay.
If I waited till 90 days from now, I'd be out of money if I don't get my job back. So I would need to fire sale the property and I might not get as much money, right?
Okay. And so then the idea is that you're going to sell your house and you're going to live now off of the proceeds from your home.
Well, it just goes down to there's some big decisions that are being made or not being made, but which will cause those decisions to be made for people in the future, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's worth this step of going down and actually weighing the evidence. Think about. I'll use a great example. My buddy that the industry vaporized because the government stroked a pen, right? The industry vaporized.
Yeah.
He didn't sit down and scratch his head and hope it came back and start petitioning the government.
Right.
Like the evidence was, this shit's over for 12 months. Let's get on with it, right? And that is really taking effect reality of the situation, right?
Right. Totally.
But you've got to, and a lot of people don't do that.
Maybe because they don't know how.
Think about health. Well, it's resistance to change. Like think about health. It's such an easy example.
Yeah,
we go get a update every single year. We happen to have the same doctor, right?
Yeah.
Every single year, go get an update.
Right.
And he tells you your scoreboard. It's good. You're bad. You're gonna die if you don't change things, right? And there's been years for me personally where I've gone and he's like, "Hey, Josh, man, like, not good." I'm like, feel okay. Go back next year. Hey, Josh, not good.
Not good. Yeah.
Haven't kind of a good life. And the third year I go back, he's like, so bad that if you keep this crap up, you're gonna die early. Oh. Okay, now I'll make the change, right?
Yeah.
So the resistance to the lifestyle change because it's hard, not because
it's also easy to just like not listen or go, right? Like that yearly physical, it really kind of sucks.
How about people that literally don't go to dentists because they don't want to know what the dentist is going to tell them because they have a tooth that hurts, but they don't want to get drilled. It's like, it's not going to get better.
Yes. And you should always go every 6 months because it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper.
Maintenance is cheaper,
Maintenance
right?
is a lot cheaper.
I've got one of my best friends in the world. He had a heart episode about 4 years ago. And before that, he was a guy, I think men do this more than women, I think in general, but he's like, I can handle it. Sore back, not a big deal. This kind of feels weird. I'm fine. Now, after that episode, he's like, if I feel off at all, that's your body telling there's a problem. Go to the damn doctor.
I know. Right? I don't know why that to be so scary. But Dr. Mac isn't scary.
Well, people don't want to know. They don't want to deal with reality, which goes back to its resistance to change.
Yeah.
People get comfortable with their spending habits. People get comfortable with their body habits. People get comfortable with a unfulfilling marriage. People get comfortable and they get resistant to change because dealing with it, God forbid, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But that's just not a way to live. And that's certainly not a way to thrive.
Or like a board of directors, like we've been talking about recently. It's like having a board of directors of your life that like help you make like these decisions. And I think, the less equipped you are to make a decision, like the stronger the need to have people that can say, hey, this is how you spend your money. This is what you do with this. Hey, this is what you need to do here in this certain area for your marriage, for your health, for your, whatever. Again, is uncomfortable. But if you just submit to like authority and saying, I am not the decision maker. I'm just going to follow.
Tell me what to do, boss.
Tell me what to do, boss.
Well, that's a great point. So I've got another coach named Roy, and Roy taught me probably a decade ago this concept called driven, drifting, directed. I'll say it slower. Driven, drifting, directed.
Look at you slowing it down for the people in the back.
It's amazing how many texts I get of, hey, Josh, it sounded pretty cool, but I don't know what you said. They're like, Josh, you have a great radio voice, yet I can't understand you. Going too fast.
If only we could hear what you said.
So driven, drifting, directed is the 3 Ds from Roy Mason. And it's really interesting. It's so true. So let me explain. Driven. So apply this to any area of your life, right? When you're in a driven stage, dude, you'll run through walls. Like we've all had that diet. We're like, you know what? I'm going to be on the beach in 60 days. I can do this. Like you follow the protocol, you eat right, you work out, you do all the supplements. You're like, you're going to go get it. Right. Yeah.
Same with work. Same with work. It's like, this is my goal.
Oh, dude. Marriage. Like, hey, you know what? I want to have the best marriage ever. So think about like the honeymoon. Man, we perform in our honeymoon, right?
Let's do this.
Yes. And we're driven, right? Like this is what newlyweds do. Let's have a good time. And but why does it come to a crashing halt in all those areas, whether it's work, money, physicality, spouse, whatever? It's because when you are driven in a specific area, other areas for sure are going to take a toll.
Absolutely.
Right? Or the other piece is that you're always chasing, so nothing's ever good enough. And when you get to that, like we always think, I hear people talk all the time, like, man, if I had $1 million, like I'd retire. It's like, no, you wouldn't. Because I used to say that. And it's just not the truth. Like,
right.
Like how much is enough money? $1 more, right? Like, it's a weird concept. It
is very interesting.
How many days do you want to go on vacation? Like as many extra days as I possibly can get in, right?
Yeah.
So the driven works until it doesn't. And then you go into this.
And it's kind of like, what's the word? It's like people are envious of that. Like then they see when they see really driven people, that's what they want. And that's what they think they want because that's the answer. Right. They're just so driven. They're so motivated. Yeah. And look at all that they can accomplish.
Yeah. Just remember, driven is a temporary state.
Yeah, because it's fucking exhausting.
It's a temporary state. Yeah. And I love grinders. I'm a grinder. You're a grinder. Like I can do work for many hours. I'm a workaholic if I allow myself to. Allow is a key word. And I can just go further than most people can. Yeah. I think of like for physicality, there's some guys that are ultra marathon runners. I'm like, I can't do that. Like 100 miles, 200 miles. Are you out of your damn mind? David Goggins is a great example, great book. David Goggins just basically says that he seeks pain and he wants to figure out if he can go further than whatever the pain is. Right. And the whole point of me saying so that's that driven thing, but you're running away from something, you're running to something, so you're never really satisfied where you are, right?
Oh, so then that's so sad too.
What happens when you get over that peak is you have a bad fall, and it's called drifting, right? And when you're drifting, we all know this feeling, right? It is like being in a boat in the middle of the ocean with no wind, with no oars, with no motor.
So bad.
And the waves are just coming in. They're head over, like you're just being rocked around.
Whee!
The feeling is typically you feel lost. You feel like everything's a waste of time. You feel like
and there's no satisfaction. You can't win.
Yep.
You can't win. Like there's no like, yes, okay, like
It is
that is a
not
win.
you. Yeah, like it's when we look at ourselves and we're like in the mirror and we're like, I'm not acting like myself. I know I'm a better salesperson. I know I can make more calls. I know that I can be in better shape. I know that I could be a better human or a better husband or better father, right? Like that's that feeling. It's an ugly feeling.
For me, that personally comes on when I am trying too much, when I am trying to like do too many things. Like I have had to learn my pace. What is my pace? Like I can, like 2 or 3 things I can key in on, and I got to get those things really nice and tight, and they got to like be organized, and I got to work on it until like I've referenced this in the past, until I can put a checkbox next to it that it is so dialed in and it is so like ingrained as a way of life that like it would take a lot to really F that piece up again, And so anytime I find that drifting is because I'm like, well, I need to fix this and I need to fix this. And I'm going to become like a cook, and I'm going to want to cook for my family every day. And I'm going to try to do that. And then I got to work, and it's like I can't even think about it.
And this is all compounded by social media, for the record. Like people that watch social media, turn that phone off.
Sorry.
So this is compounded by social media.
Yeah.
And people are comparing too much.
Ooh.
The people only show, unfortunately, 99% of the time on social media, the best elements of their life. Like,
well, yeah, because who's going to be like, hey, watch this fight.
Right.
Like, watch me and Randy like rip each other new ones.
Right.
Like you don't do that.
that comparison is the thief of joy, is where this drifting piece comes in, right? Yeah. So then the last piece is then how do you get out of it? And the real answer is to be directed, right?
Yes.
So when you're directed, this goes back to the idea of being submitted to authority, whatever the authority would be. So I know, for example, people that are recovering from prison or recovering from alcoholism or just got through a nasty divorce. A lot of people go to church or synagogue, something like that. And what's interesting is all those people that do that, all of a sudden it seems like the pastor is talking directly to them.
Yeah.
Like, do this, right?
Yeah, just do this.
So maybe it's a spiritual power you submit to. Maybe it's a physical coach, like a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want to run and I don't want to lift heavy things, but if you tell me to do so, I'm going to submit to your authority and just do it because I know that you have my best interest in mind, right? And that goes all the way down the line of business coaches, money coaches, like listen to your freaking financial planner. If the financial planner says, if you do this in 25 years, you'll have this and you can retire, then why would you not follow that plan, right?
Right.
So it goes back to deferred gratification in a lot of ways, being content. Sorry, that's the wrong word. Happy, not content with where you are, and being addicted to the process.
And the other thing is, I think that the people that are going to help have to really understand the bite-sized piece that you need.
Yep.
Because there's you can probably handle a bigger bite in some areas than I can.
Yep.
And vice versa. So it's
for sure. Like
finding
I can organize a drawer, you can organize a room.
Correct.
And
so I think that if you match up or pair up with the wrong person to get this guidance, it kind of spirals you into a really weird place that's negative. And you're now backtracking.
You also have to assume, like, first of all, this goes back to be careful who your teacher is, but you better,
that's true.
If you're going to pick somebody, make sure they're good at that. But on top of that, you have to assume that they have the best interest in mind for you. So this goes back to how coachable are you? Because so many of us, we already know. I already know how to lose weight. Okay, well, why haven't you lost weight then? Yeah. I know how to save money and pay down debt. I don't need to do a personal family budget. Okay, then why are you poor? Like you can go down those avenues, but it's because you don't know. But you're not willing to admit it and take the decision to make a change. So we're at the next step. So here's where you've got to finally choose among the alternatives, right? So you've identified the decision, gathered the information, identified the alternatives, weighed the evidence. Now make a choice, because that one and the following one go hand in hand. Make a choice and take action.
Make a choice.
Make a damn choice and take action.
Yeah.
One thing that I would say is helpful for people that have struggles making decisions is to start with a time frame by when you have to make the decision. Okay. So a great example is Christy. So Christy does not love making decisions. God bless her, but she's good. Like, I just give you an example. Like when we decorate our house, she's very, very, very slow at it, but she loves every piece. Like we've never had to take a piece back
right,
that we bought. Like there's some people that go buy stuff and they get rid of it a year later because they're like, I don't really like it anyways.
Funny, yeah.
Christy's the opposite. Like she takes for damn ever to find what she wants, but she really loves what she gets. So kudos to her. So what I've figured out through 16, 17 years of marriage now is that I have to give white lies. So I'll give you an example. So
I'm like, I cannot wait to hear what you're going to say.
And I hope she doesn't listen to my podcast anyway, so she'll never know.
Neither does Randy. Randy doesn't listen either.
So keep this a secret amongst us. But here's the scoop.
What does that say when you can't even get your people to
listen? It means that they're tired of listening to your shit at home. That's what that means.
How why on earth would I listen to you in my ears?
Well, Christy always reminds me, like, I can coach my students, but don't ever coach her. And that's the truth. So it's
think
better that we don't.
it.
Right? But a cruel trick I play is I create time frames that are not real time frames, but it helps her make a decision. For example, I've got a ranch and I've got a house on the ranch, and one of my buddies was he was moving from California to North Carolina. In July 4th, he was supposed to come through, and I was going to let him stay at that house. And it was complete. We had to completely refurbish it. It was not decorated in January. So I started with the truth by saying, hey, this JJ is going to come driving through. So we need to make sure it's fully decorated by July. Well, when COVID started in March, I found out that it's unknown when it'll drive through at all because we don't know what's going to go with COVID. So originally it was going to be a road trip. He's going to stop all these awesome places, see all of his friends. Then it turned into, I don't know when I'm going to come.
But every month, need to know
hell no. Every month I was like, hey, don't forget JJ's going to be here July 4th. Don't forget JJ's going to be here. So it helped make decisions quicker because there's a time frame in mind at the end. Obviously, 6 months is not a great time frame for most decisions, right? So when you think
too
about
long, too short,
that's way too long.
Okay, I'm just making sure we're on the same page.
Some decisions should be made in the hour, right? So going back to the decision on the bonus, well, there is a time frame. We don't have to decide technically till we get the bonus in January.
Right.
We said it's not till January. So are we gonna spend the entire year thinking about it? No. But we have a time frame in place, but we have to make those final decisions. So then you can back up and say, well, I do want to meet with my financial planner to see what he would recommend I do with it. I do want to talk to my CPA to find out what the tax consequences are of this bonus. Is it like what's this in effect? I do want to, so now we can back into, by this date I need to talk to my CPA, by this date I need to talk to my financial planner.
Yeah.
By this date we're going to make a decision.
That way, when it shows up, it doesn't get blown on random shit.
Or even worse, just put in the checking account.
And
let's talk about that for a second.
On random shit.
Right. Yeah, that's true. A friend of ours came into some money through inheritance, right?
There was something I was.
And this is a perfect example. Obviously, you can't plan, and God for we don't want to plan for inheritance. But here's a newsflash: everyone's going to die. And you're going to pay taxes, right? So with all of our parents, we hope that they all live to 100. But people that do plan for what's going to happen when they pass on, people like the parents making those decisions versus us just, here's a pile of money while you're grieving. Good luck. Good luck. Right? That's an example of make decisions early. Yeah. So that you don't have to deal with it in the moment. But yeah, you don't want that bonus in this case to show up in your checking account in January. After you've spent money on Christmas presents, after you've spent money on a trip, and not have it isolated of what's this going to go to, and say, hey, we got an extra $5,000. Let's go to Vegas. Because Vegas sounds fun, right? Especially after this crap. I want to go to Vegas.
Is Vegas open?
Very, very, very partial. It's taking a big beating. I've got a friend of mine that lives in Vegas, and it's crazy.
I feel so bad for the casinos. I was thinking about that.
I don't feel bad for the casinos because they have plenty of money, but I feel really bad for the people that work in the casinos.
Yes,
there's
that's what I mean.
There's a ton of entertainers, all the dealers, all the waitresses, all the bartenders, all the pool people.
So many, and I just can't even imagine seeing the strip just barren and empty.
No, it's not barren and empty because people still do whatever they want to do, unfortunately. But
where are they gambling?
No, they're still gambling. They open them back up, I think, in June.
25% people there.
There's space restrictions, things like that. But yeah,
all right. Well, you want to?
Let's not go to Vegas though. Nope, because we're talking about saving money. This is not what we talk about on the podcast.
That was a test.
Money.
That was a test.
I passed.
Gabe did not.
Remember,
he's on Southwest getting airline tickets.
We had to choose among the alternatives, and we had to make the decision. And then here's the last one. This is a big piece. that people miss the boat on. The last step is that you have to review your decision. You got to review it.
Okay.
Because just because you made a decision with the information you had, you followed the entire process, doesn't mean that it gets you the results you were hoping for. Right.
So after the decision is made, so in this example, we have our bonus.
Yep.
We've made the decision. We know what we're doing with it. It's safely put away in the bank.
Yep.
Or whatever. Then you review.
No. So you review the after action report. So the example you're giving, in theory, that bonus is going to come every year. Right. So now, so a decision made for a bonus last year doesn't mean it's the same right decision for this year. Right. So we needed to look at it.
So we made the decision for this
based
year.
On the best information we had at the time. We reviewed it. We did the who, when, where, why. We looked at the alternatives, and we decided that was based on our previous history, we should go ahead and put it into cash reserves. We want the reserves because if I really have the reserve, I'm going to dip into that when the life happens to me.
Yeah.
And this way I can start whittling slower towards the debt reduction. But when I do need to, I'm not going to let that credit card go back up like we talked about has happened in the past, right? So this year I got the reserves. I'm a young man. I'm married to a young woman, and a year goes by, and the cash reserves are there. We didn't get sick. We didn't didn't spend lots of money out eating, right? So we get next year's bonus comes in. We do the same process. We're going to review it and say, I don't need to go back into cash like I did last year. Now let's go ahead and apply towards debt.
Yeah.
And then a year goes by and we're out of debt. And you say, well, what am I doing with now? Well, shit, we should definitely put this into retirement.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that this is a good place. Tax return money. This is a good,
that's a great example that most Americans have to deal with.
Yes.
Is people look at that money and they're like, wee!
Party! Right. Yeah. And if you don't have a budget in place, that is what happens. You just don't know what to do with it, or you do something dumb with it. You have fun with it because you deserve it. And yeah, so it's a good example.
And a lot of times, tax return might not quote unquote move the needle in it, like $1,000 tax return back. Okay. Is it going to retire off of that? No, but a good decision with every tax return that you get for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
Does move the needle.
It does.
Right. So I think it's an excellent example because, just thinking through very quick processes, review it. Is it a good choice? What are the alternatives?
Well, if we do this 2 years in a row, to down payment.
Yeah. Well, you got to think through, and there's a couple of key questions I always look at personally. First one is, what's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario?
I feel like we miss that one a lot personally.
Really?
Yeah.
We just look at the best case and not the worst case?
Yeah.
Or vice versa?
Probably just the best case.
Okay.
We really don't think through what is the absolute worst.
Yeah. I think that's a great example because me buying investment properties, great one, right? Best case scenario, I get the 20% return that I thought I was going to get because I calculated the numbers and everything's going to go hunky-dory. Worst case scenario, do I get my money back or do I lose money? Yeah. What is the worst case? And people make decisions often only thinking best case. And when you go to money...
Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe in an investment thing, it scares me so much. I do only think of the worst, probably.
Okay, so you're risk averse there. So maybe it's different for different things.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. So best case, worst case scenario, I think is super, super important to kind of think through upfront when you're making about decisions. Because if you can live with it, the worst case scenario, you're probably pretty damn safe, right?
Absolutely.
And that's a whole different episode we recorded before. But when I stroke a check for an investment, I literally assume I'm gonna lose all the money for that investment. I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's a small piece that I'm going to do. And that's the only reason I'm willing to take those risks, right? If I'm not willing to lose it, why would I do that?
Don't do it.
Whatever that number is, you got to be really careful there. So
totally.
I want to kind of finish up with 2 stories because I think that this will help people when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to self-belief, things like that. Okay. The first story is the elephant story.
Okay.
And the elephant story, I think, is so true when it comes to people feeling stuck with money, people feeling stuck with their weight, people feeling stuck with their station in life.
Okay.
And the story goes, if you've ever been to an elephant farm or a tourist trap elephant, go pet the elephants, go ride the elephants. One thing that you'll notice is that when they put them up at night, there's no big freaking fence. Let's be honest. Elephants are the largest mammal that walks the face of the earth. Not the ocean. I know that those are whales, but on they're the largest mammal. So you can put up a 10-foot fence and they'll still walk right through it. There's swaths of Africa that the trees are all knocked down because the elephants can do what they want to do, right? They are a bulldozer on wheels, right? That's or what they're on. They're not hooves.
They're not hooves.
They're feet. Their feet. Okay.
Okay.
It's not a hoofed
Sorry.
animal. They've got nails, just like you. Okay.
They do?
They do. They've got nails.
Clearly I need to go
No.
spend some time with some elephants.
Okay. You know what? You do that. You can go in Fredericksburg. Fredericksburg has a tourist trap with elephant petting.
Okay. I'd rather go to Africa though.
But here's what's really interesting. Right. Here's what's really interesting though, is when they put those elephants up at night, all they have to do is take a tiny little rope and tie it around their ankle and tie it to a tree.
Why?
Well, they don't. Well, the better question is, why don't they break the damn rope?
Why? Yeah, that was my question.
Right. Like, how does a tiny rope keep an elephant from running off and stampeding Fredericksburg?
Because
right?
they're precious.
Right. The answer is that they put the rope on when they were children. When the elephant was this small, they put the rope against their leg, and for the first year or two, they tug and tug and tug, and they can't break it.
Why can't I do it?
And eventually, they give up. And they have this mental block that if there's a rope on my ankle, I can never break the rope. And when you think about why people get stuck, this is a true story. So you've got a freaking 5-ton elephant, 25,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And it will literally not run away when a little freaking rope is tied around its ankle.
That is like
it's
the
got
sweetest
its middle,
thing ever.
it's got a mental block, right? This applies to money. This applies to I can get out of debt. This applies to I just have hormonal issues. This applies to tolerating insignificant marriages. We just settled. This is just how it is. This is just my station in life. And the moral of the story is that if the damn elephant just believed it was possible to break the rope, it would be walking down Fredericksburg. It'd be freaking stampeding, right? If it just believed that rope was breakable, it would walk off, right?
That is so crazy.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that I want to put out there for the viewers, because I might have said something today. You're a small business owner. Maybe you are the person that got furloughed or lost their job, and you literally believe I cannot replace my income in the next 30 days. Well, if you believe that the rope is fucking tied around your ankle, you're right. You're right.
There's no rope, man.
Right. That's really funny. I love that voice. If you do believe that it's possible that you can retire, that you can retire well, that you can get out of debt, that you can lose weight, that you can make a significant marriage, that you can work 40 hours a week, not 80 hours a week. Yeah. If you believe it's possible, then you start down that path. I always start with the beginning, with the end in mind of, are we going to break up or are we going to make up?
Oh, yes. And change who you hang out with too.
Yeah,
sometimes
absolutely.
that might need to be something that happens.
Amen. Well, that goes back to the decision-making process for sure, right?
Yes.
So that's all we got time for today.
I thought there was a frog.
Well, I'll save that for the next one. That's called a cliffhanger, I heard.
Ooh.
So if you want to hear about the frogs, come on back. I know we're out of time, but
that makes me so happy. Those sweet little elephants.
Sweet little elephants.
Oh my God.
Go pet the elephant, guys. But if you enjoyed this conversation, please like or subscribe. Please share, ask questions.
Yes. Ask questions at sigmansense@gmail.com. We'll make sure that we go into detail with them every time.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Take care, guys.